Welcome everyone to the United Nations Association of Minnesota broadcast. I'm FADIA THABET from Yemen. I am a Humphrey alumni from last year, and today I have HINA. She is from Pakistan and she is Humphrey for 2016. Let me start this interview by asking her a couple of questions based on her experience. Tell me a little bit about yourself and where are you from?
Hello, Fadia. I'm HINA TILLAT. As you know, I belong to Pakistan. I'm from a city known as Peshawar. I'm currently a Humphrey Fellow at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs in University of Minnesota for 2016 and 17, and my area is public policy. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I started my career as a school teacher. After a few years, I decided to change my career and go into a field where I can do some development work for my community, for the people like myself, particularly women. And that's how I started working in the social sector, working with different international NGOs, with government, teaching part-time, and generally working for social policy and social justice, but with a particular focus on gender and women.
Thank you very much. The other question that I have, tell me a little bit about your experience from your home country, Pakistan, with the topic that we have to discuss it with the United Nations Youth Model this year about youth employment.
Well, Fadia, as you know that in Pakistan, the youth bulge, as we call it, we have a youth bulge, which means that almost around 50% or so of our population comprises of youth, of people whose ages ranges roughly between 15 years and somewhere around late 20s or 30s. Now, this is, as some people say, the most productive time of life, and employment as one of the major challenges and issues that the government is facing. This is mainly because most of this youth is illiterate. They have no skills training, they have no job opportunities. Most of them are stuck in circumstances where security is a major concern, and they're in far-off areas. So engaging this youth in a meaningful livelihood opportunities where they can actually have a career, where they can actually have an employment, whether they're generating it or whether they are having jobs, is an important challenge for the government of Pakistan and the civil society in general. The international donor community, the international community, due to the strategic geopolitical situation of Pakistan, is focusing a lot on generating employment for this youth and engaging them in productive activities so as they don't become victim to extremism and negative attitudes and behavior. I'll give an example. For example, in one of my projects, where an international donor, with the help of an international NGO, some local NGOs, and one of the government department, was engaging youth from the tribal areas, which are very far-off areas, where there are no education opportunities or very lesser educational opportunities and almost no job prospects. These youth were engaged and brought out of those areas into the mainstream life of Pakistan, particularly in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. What we did in the project was
This is where are you from, or this is in...
Oh yes, that's Peshawar is basically the capital city of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It's a somewhat conservative and a traditional kind of Pakhtun society, which has its own different challenges. So these youth are even further challenged because they are from even farthest areas of the country, and they don't have access to a lot of technology or educational opportunities or job opportunities, as I said. So we brought these youth out of those areas. We brought them into the major cities in the province, even in the capital city. We placed them in some of the good educational institutes. We linked them with technical and vocational training institutes. We provided them career counseling. We provided them exposure visits. We helped them out with the academic settlement and language barriers and other social aspects which enabled them to become part of, first of all, to have more exposure for the first time in their lives, and then to have major and brighter job prospects for their future.
But I want to ask about the women participation or the girls' participation in that program. How you address the gender balance to have access to education? Do you have an idea about this?
Of course, that remains a major challenge, despite the fact that people outside of Pakistan have a certain idea that it's very difficult for women. But me being myself, I would say that it's not a total loss. We do have opportunities.
As a woman from
as a woman,
Peshawar,
exactly.
yeah.
As a woman from Peshawar, as a Pushtun woman, I can vouch for the system or my tradition, which has supported me, particularly my parents, who have always been my support, who have always supported me, and they enabled me to have education, to have a career, to work, to travel across the globe, actually. And I've been fortunate. However, it still remains a big challenge for most of the girls. And that has been part of the reason why I decided to come into this field and work for girls like myself in particular, and then in general for other people. So coming back to your question, engaging girls in livelihoods opportunities, and then from vulnerable areas or vulnerable youth groups remains even a bigger challenge, which doesn't mean that there are not opportunities. We have to find opportunities. So we have to take some affirmative actions. We have to go a little bit extra and beyond the traditional ways of development project or development activities. So for example, in our project, what we did was we wanted to engage more girls and have them engage with the vocational and skills, technical skills development. But unfortunately, that we couldn't have it because of the cultural restrictions. So what we did was we tried to incentivize it by offering the families to have a family member a male family member, which is more acceptable to them, come with the girls to the educational institutes. That was just one step. Once we engaged with them and they saw for themselves how beneficial it was going to be for the girls, that was just a start, and it started rolling. You would find it very interesting that the parents, particularly the fathers, were really interested to get their daughters educated, to have some skill, and even if it's possible to have some earning. Unfortunately, the access to these institutions, the cultural restrictions, and then the kind of risks and dangers that were part of such access remain the main obstacle for them. So once they saw the opportunity that those obstacles can be addressed, there was less reluctance or no reluctance at all. So we were able to engage them, but that was an ongoing process, and it still remains a big challenge.
If you allow me to ask you this question, what was the thing that actually worked for you to study abroad and having this professional career as a woman from Peshawar, different than the others? I know it's a personal question, but if you can answer that.
I think, to put it in a nutshell, I've been fortunate to have the kind of family and family support and my parents, which enabled me to convert my challenges into opportunities. And it was not an easy journey. I had lots of challenges. I still face a lot of challenges, even discrimination. But I have to be honest, and I have to say this, that at the same time, I am able to identify the strengths in my traditional culture, because our society is transitioning from very conservative, from very traditional, towards a different one. And adapting
this
with
is
technology.
exactly what we need to break the stereotype that people are having now.
I agree with you, because my own career, my own professional experience, and all the exposure and the experience that I got, it's vouching for it. I can say that it wasn't an easy journey, but it was not impossible. I still face a lot of challenges, even at this part and at this level in my career. However, it worked out. I had to struggle. I had to work really hard. That's a key. So hard work, finding your support system, for example, finding the similar kind of women or girls like myself and learning from their experiences. That support system counts a lot. And as you go further in your career, like myself, as I go further, I find that support system in other societies, from other cultures, with other women who come from a totally different background and different career paths. But I'm able to connect with them, and I keep on expanding on it.
Okay, great. Let me ask you, or let me try to mix question number 3 and 4. What do you think from your experience in Pakistan would be applicable to other countries dealing with the same issues? And the fourth questions, I know that we want to mix those questions. What do you think is the most important aspect for the diplomacy in dealing with the other countries?
I believe based on my professional experience and, for example, this experience that I'm having right now, I'm in the US for the very first time in my whole life. And
But you were in Australia for.
yes, I went to Australia on another scholarship, and now I'm here on another fellowship, which that should tell you that opportunities come your way once you work hard. But it's up to you how to get hold of those opportunities. So I think the same applies to the diplomacy aspect of it. From my experience, we have to keep our mind open. Even if we don't agree with something, we should be able to listen to it, and maybe argue about it, discuss it. But at the same time, we should be ready to expand our horizons, to expand our experiences. Once you decide on that, no matter how many challenges come your way, you can deal with it. But hard work, in my opinion, is the key, as well as readiness to accepting these challenges and going through the hardships. So if you go out with that mindset, then the openness would be a very important aspect to the diplomacy.
Okay. Let me ask you additional question. Based on your experience and working with the youth and all these organizations from the USA to the UNICEF, from the FATA and Oxfam, I want to know about your wow moment. This is what they call it here in the US. What do you think the biggest achievement that you did during your work, and also at the same time, what is the biggest challenging as a woman from Peshawar that you face in your work?
The wow moment. Okay, that's a difficult one. I think every success, so to speak, in my career, in my academic success, because I also teach part time as to students of Masters in Development Studies. I started my career as a teacher, and when I started teaching to the master level students, that was a moment of pride for me, because I was able to link my practical experience with the teaching, and that made a difference for the students. I hope it makes still making a difference for them. But I consider that every step and every success, every level that I pass and I go to the next one, it's a wow moment for me. And I have again to thank my family, my friends, and my support system that are around me, all the people, my colleagues who helped me out, even those who really made it difficult for me. So I had to come out of my comfort zone and learn new skills to go about and do my work. I have to thank all of them. So every moment, no matter how difficult it was, and it was difficult, every success from going from one level to another has been a wow moment for me.
And how you influenced students that or beneficiaries that you work with, whether they are youth or women?
I would say giving my own example, because I'm somewhat of a unique, I don't want to use the word unique, but I would.
I do believe that you are unique.
Thank you so much. I actually come from a conservative family. I had to make a lot of adjustments, and I had to adapt and adopt to different circumstances and environments and behaviors. At the same time, the main reason that I was able to do it was my education. So the key was my ability, and thanks to my parents who let me go to higher education in a conservative society where girls are not allowed. Now they are. At the time that I were not, or they were transitioning. So education was the key. Then secondly, my decisions and some of the circumstances that led me to work in environments which were really challenging, and that still are. Ideally, it should become more easy for me to face the challenges, but interestingly and unfortunately, it's not. The more you go further up, higher up in the hierarchy, or with the level of responsibility, the more challenging it becomes. But we should not lose our heart. We should continue hard work. It becomes easy after a certain level or limit, but at the same time, the challenges become bigger. It's up to the person how they adapt their behavior to deal with them. So hard work, belief in yourself, and keeping up with your value system, and continue to work hard. That's the kind of my personal experiences I share with my students and even the youth that I work with.
Okay, so I want to thank you, Hinna, for this interview, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Fadia, for having me, and good luck to all the students in the summit.